Okay, let's talk about where we're actually going to start a mix in a hip-hop or trap genre. Now, in the previous video, I was talking about the semiotics, all of the expectations that a listener may interpret or misinterpret. Now, as the mixer, it's important to be cognizant of those things. When I start any mix, I think about them and I say, does the audience need to hear this? And if they do, I mark it. And then I think about three other elements in the mix. And I then ask myself, do those three elements form their own singular balance? Now, what I mean by that is if I were to take away everything in the song except for those three focus elements, would the song still be the song? Meaning, would it convey the emotion that the song is meant to convey, just using those three elements? If they do, I call that the focus. And that's where I start the mix. So in terms of a hip hop and trap mix, even though the vocalist is obviously telling a story or saying something that the listener is going to find catchy, the thing that the audience is really listening to so that they can identify what they're actually listening to are these musical elements like the 808. So I'm going to start typically this particular genre with the kick and the 808. Now, if the vocalist is more of a pop singer, or this is more of a pop trap or pop hip hop production, I am going to be mindful of the vocal and some kind of musical element that's supposed to be complementing them, or I may just put up at the 808 and the vocal. That's up to you to decide as the producer or the mixer, and if you are the mixer, always communicate with the producer to find out that you're on the same page, because it's happened to me a bunch of times where I thought that something was the focus and then I sent off a ref to the producer and the producer's like, why is, the kick drum loud when the vocal should be louder, the snare's too loud or something. So make sure you're on the same page with your producers, mixers. It's very, very important. Identify that focus and you start the balance within the focus. Now, there's something that I like to call anchor instruments, and those are the loudest parts of a mix. The anchor instrument, obviously, in this genre, is going to be your kick drum and your 808. It's kind of difficult to balance something without having an anchor instrument present. But remember when I was saying, if your focus is three elements that create this sort of emotional communication with the listener, without everything else, balance those three. So let's say it was a vocal and a guitar, and those two elements really conveyed the message of the song and nothing else was really necessary. And that's what you felt the audience needed to be paying attention to. Balance those two and then mute them. Then bring in your anchor instruments like a kick drum or the 808, or if they're happening at the same time, both. Balance those instruments, put them at a level where you feel works, so that you can use it as a barometer to balance other things against it. Then bring in your main focus and bring that up as a balance. So meaning, you're not just bringing up the vocal, then the guitar. You bring up the vocal at the guitar at the levels that you set together against the anchor instrument. Once you do that, you'll have your loudest elements as your anchor, you'll have the focus, and then you can mix around it and know that neither of them will become infringed by the rest of the mix. So when building your mix game plan, the key things to remember are, did you recognize the focus of the song? Did you recognize your anchor instruments? And if your anchor instrument is not the focus of the song, I would say it's wise to get the balance of your focus instruments first, because those are the things that the audience is supposed to pay attention to. So once you have a balance between your focus and your anchor, you can then start balancing the rest of your mix. And the great thing about coming up with a game plan like that is, if you do the important things first, it's going to be really difficult for you to infringe upon them or make a mistake when you're mixing the other instruments later on.